Welcome to The Best. This is the show where we find the best product in its category. Today, we're taking these four 13 to 14-inch laptops and putting them to the test, and we'll tell you which one is the best. We'll be looking and rating them on 5 different categories: battery life, design, performance, portability, and the big one, value. To do that, we will need the help of CNET expert Dan Ackerman. Why is Dan the man for this? Just take a look.
Dan Ackerman, Senior Managing Editor. He's been with CNET for 14 years. He reviews laptops, tablets, PC gaming, and more. Dan's love of tech goes beyond his areas of expertise. He's the author of The Tetris Effect. He is also currently obsessed with 3D printers. Dan has been into tech for so long that his first PC got online using an acoustic coupler and a rotary phone.
Welcome aboard, Dan.
Great to be here. Thank you for the video. Very nice.
It was hard to make you look good, but we did it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I worked really hard to pick out 4 really great laptops for us to talk about, all in that 13, 14-inch range you want to carry around with you every day. I have got Apple's 13-inch MacBook Air. I've got the Dell XPS 13. I've got the Razer Blade Stealth, and I have the Acer Swift 7. And the first thing we're going to talk about is how they all do with battery life.
Now, these devices are really different from each other. How exactly do you even the playing field to make sure your battery results are accurate?
Well, it's simple. What we do is we figure out the same test. We run it the same way on all these machines. For laptops, what we do is we stream an HD video from a private server, and we see how long the laptop runs until it dies, till the battery dies. And this taxes the Wi-Fi antenna, the screen, video decoding, so you're hitting it pretty hard, so you get a good idea of how long this thing will run continuously if you're on a cross-country flight or you're working in an office all day, so you know that it's not going to conk out right at the wrong second.
All right, what did your tests find out?
Well, what we found out was, and you're not going to be surprised to hear this, that the MacBook, out of these laptops at least, was the longest lasting. I think the MacBook ran for 646 minutes, which is, more than 10 hours. That's pretty good. Apple's usually near the top of these, not in every category, but especially the MacBook Air size laptop. Behind that was actually this little guy, the Swift 7, and that was 590 minutes, which is almost 6 hours, not quite. Behind that was the Dell XPS 13, that's 509 minutes. And then in last place, 409 minutes for the Razer Blade Stealth, which is a pretty powerful laptop, as is this. So if you were going to rank these, this is pretty easy. This is just by the numbers here. If you had points to give them, you'd go 4, and then you'd go 3, and then 2, and then 1. When it comes to the subjective, objective, this is pretty objective.
Thanks, Dan. Let's go to design. We're going to judge a book by its cover. Which laptop turns heads? Which one feels right? That's so highly subjective, so we wanted to know what you thought. We also turned to our social channels to find out which one you think looks the best. Let's see what happened.
Right off the bat, I do love the space gray or whatever the hell this Apple color is.
I like the speakers, I like the color, I like that it has rounded corners.
Let's take a look at the Acer here. Very light, actually. I think lighter than the Air.
This thing is super light. I like this.
I really like the size of the keypad. It's very large.
I feel like I'm gonna bend this at some point too. If I open it and if I open and close that too much.
Oh, and it has a weird pop-up camera. I don't like that.
The camera placement makes no sense.
That's a weird place to put a camera, so is this not looking up my nose?
This one's cool, little generic, the Razer one.
This one's a little bulky, a lot bigger than I would expect a laptop to feel like.
Ooh, wait, it changes colors. This is a disco computer.
Feels pretty hefty and strong. Doesn't feel cheap.
The Dell, I like that it's trying to be different with the kind of like textured pattern on the keyboard and like the mouse pad.
Kind of like the texture on it. It's something I don't see very often.
It has really nice thin bezels, so that's a big plus.
Fairly standard, doesn't seem too heavy, but this one seems pretty cool.
But for some reason, doesn't this look old? Like something you'd have 5 years ago?
We've got our social poll up. The MacBook was in first with 51% of the votes here, the Dell XPS 25%, the Razer's 18%, and the Acer Swift all the way in the basement with just 6% of the votes. Dan, you're the expert. How do you rank these on design?
Well, I'm going to tell you, the people have spoken. However, the people are wrong. Okay, this is very simple. Best looking one right here is the Dell. White is very cool. Almost an edge-to-edge screen there, no bezel, fantastic. The MacBook's okay, but it's really the same design they've had on MacBook Pros for years. But you know what? I'll give them a little credit there. Razer does a very nice laptop, but a couple parts of it look and feel a little bit dated. They've gotten better about the screen bezels. I get it. And last place, this Acer Swift, because it's so thin, it's so light, there's not a lot of room for experimentation and making it look cool.
I can't wait to see what people say about the people are wrong. So we're going to see how that turns out. So here's how we're going to use all the data. Dan gets 1 vote, everyone else gets 1 as well. So after putting all that together, the Acer is in the cellar, earning 1 point. The Razer Blade Stealth gets 2 points. The MacBook Air and the Dell both earn 4 points apiece. After 2 rounds, the MacBook Air is the leader with 8 points. The Dell XPS 13 is in second with 6 points. The Acer's in third with 4. That means the Razer Blade Stealth is in last place with just 3 points. I think it's time to talk about portability. To kick off portability, we've got our trusty scale. Let's start weighing some laptops. Let's start with the MacBook Air.
MacBook Air, always very thin, very light.
So we've got 2 pounds, 11 ounces.
All right, I'm gonna put down 2 pounds, 11 ounces. Always a very traditional, super lightweight laptop to carry around. The MacBook, still 2 pounds, 11 ounces. It's not that light anymore.
Let's check out the Dell XPS 13. This one feels a little heftier.
It's dense. It's got a dense feeling when you pick it up.
That's also 2 pounds, 11 ounces.
Okay.
You know, it is very small. And you're right, I think dense is the right word for this because it does weigh the same as the MacBook, but it's just distributed differently.
It's got a smaller footprint just by a little bit.
All right, now we got the Razer Blade Stealth.
And Razer is best known for making gaming laptops, so their things are usually very big. This is the exception, the small one.
2 pounds, 14 ounces, so almost 3 pounds.
14 ounces, very good.
Then there's the Acer Swift 7. Whoa, this thing is light.
It feels like a mock-up. It feels like a little plastic mock-up somebody made of what a laptop should look like.
Definitely feels that way.
All right, I want you to weigh that, but I want you to give me a guess first.
Okay, I'd say this feels more like almost like a tablet. I'd say around a pound.
Okay, that's ambitious. We're not quite at that point yet, but take a look and we'll compare it to these 3 guys who are all more than, 2.5 pounds.
Okay, 1 pound, 13 ounces.
And that's a huge jump from these guys. And it's one of the reasons why I love this laptop so much. It's also super thin. It is less than 10 millimeters thick. It's about 9 millimeters thick, but that's a magic line very few laptops get to cross. People think about thinness a lot, and these companies, they really brag about how thin their laptops are, but trust me, you will take lighter over thinner any day of the week. They're both good, but lighter makes more sense in the long run, especially if you've got this thing in a shoulder bag or a backpack, you're carrying it around with you. I found this super thin Acer to be really great, but using it on the road for about a week, the design was so slimmed down, I had a hard time moving the screen without accidentally touching the touchscreen, and I kept accidentally triggering the touchpad because there's no wrist rest on it.
All right, we weighed them, we tried them out. Let's rank them.
Let's go by the numbers right here. Obviously, very clear favorite. 4 points right here to the Acer. These 2 guys are tied, so you know what? 2 points each, boom and boom. Just a little bit heavier. The Razer just gets 1 point. There you go.
Let's move on to performance, shall we? People who care about power care about performance. Dan, you ran a bunch of tests. What'd you find out?
What we do is we run benchmark tests that measure different things that the laptops can do. And in some tests, our pal, the Dell, came in first. In other tests, the Razer came in first. So I decided to split the difference and just say, hey, 4 points for you and 4 points for you. Behind them was the MacBook Air, which gets a very nice 2. In last place is our pal, the Acer, and there's a good reason for that. It's so thin, it's so light. The reason why they're able to get it so tiny and keep the battery life pretty good is because it's got a Y series processor, a much lower power consumption processor than these other guys. So performance-wise, it's not going to be in the same class, but I'm going to tell you a little secret.
What's that?
It doesn't really matter that much. What are you doing on your laptop? You're online, you're going to Facebook, you're streaming Netflix movies, you're shopping on Amazon. It's all browser stuff. It's all the same.
Here's where we stand. The Dell and MacBook Air are tied with 12 points. The Acer has 9 points. The Razer gained some ground in this round, but is in last place with 8 points. It's make or break time, the deciding element, the final factor, value. Dan, what do we mean by value?
It's that intangible sense that you're getting a good deal. It's not the least expensive thing, which could be underpowered and you're not going to like it. It's not the fanciest thing, because that's probably very expensive and probably more bells and whistles than what you really need. It's that magic point where the price and what it does for you come together and you go, this is where I want to spend my money. I feel good about what I did. Now, I want you to keep something in mind. A lot of these laptops are very configurable. So you could start at one price, add some extra memory or a better processor or some other, extra features, and they could cost a lot more. So I'm going to show you the prices of these as we tested them, but we can also talk a little bit about the starting prices. Now, this Acer down here, this guy, it's not cheap. He's $16.99, and you're really paying for that engineering that gets it down to under £2. The Razer Blade Stealth, well, you know what? That's even crazier. That's $18.99. And again, it's a very powerful laptop in a slim body, and it looks really nice. The Dell is, as configured, $17.99, and we are going to come back to that number because that tells us a lot about what we need to know. And the MacBook Air, when we got this MacBook Air, the starting price was $11.99. Apple's just updated it with a True Tone display and dropped the price to $10.99, but it's still pretty much the same, doesn't really change our math.
Yeah, speaking of starting prices, like you said, these things are configured so you can test them out, so hopefully they get glowing reviews. That's why they're set up this way. Tell me about the starting prices for some of the other ones.
Right, now, if you're looking at battery life, it's probably going to be roughly the same no matter how you configure these. If you like the design, that's pretty much the same. Performance, storage space, those are the big things that change as you change the configuration. The Dell, very expensive, but you can get this Dell starting at, I think, a very nice $8.99. Now, you're not going to get the 4K touchscreen and the higher-end processor for that, but you do get the excellent design, the fact that they moved the webcam back up to the top of the screen where it belongs, the super thin bezel, all of that in the base model, and you can spend a couple $100, not all the way up to $1,800 just to get a better processor in there, and I think that's a really good value. I'm going to give this 4. MacBook Air, it's a good investment. You buy one as a freshman, it's going to last you until you're a senior. I'm going to give you 3 right there. Now, I like the Acer a lot, but frankly, it's a lot of money for something that has that Y series processor, is not super powerful. You may feel it's a little sluggish if you're using it all day, every day as your main laptop. I'm going to give it a 2. The Razer, you're really paying a lot for design and engineering. It's got the same parts as these other guys, but frankly, it's just so much more expensive. And it's not one of their gaming laptops either. It's just a regular, everyday work laptop. So I got to give Razer, even though they do a very nice job with these, I got to give it the 1.
Now, these are all really great laptops.
Even the worst of the best is still pretty good.
But we've got to pick the best of the best, correct? So for our final totals, the Razer Blade Stealth comes in last place with 9 points. The Acer Swift 7 is in 3rd place with 11 points. So the best laptop is the Dell XPS 13 with a total of 16 points. It beat the MacBook Air by just 1 point. It's got a great design with small bezels. It's lightweight while providing good performance and battery life. You can configure the XPS 13 to your heart's delight, and it starts at a relatively low price. Big thanks to Dan Ackerman, everyone who voted on design, and you great viewers. Let us know what you think of the results. Your voice is important. From all of us here, we wish you the best.